Okay, what's up, everybody? Today we are looking at Dreamtonics Synthesizer V Studio 2, but they've just announced that they've released some choir voices, and I'm super excited about these. This is one of those tools that I've made videos before in the past, and I've used this in my writing process and my production process. And it's really exciting now to go from single voices into some choir voices. And so I want to actually go through and talk about these and demonstrate them a little bit. This is not like a reaction video. It's also not a sponsored stream. I've had access to these for a period of time now and gotten to know them a little bit. And so I'm actually going to do more of a walkthrough of the features that I think are really impressive about this. And of course, we're going to do this live, which means if there's any issues or things, you'll see some of the warts too, right? It's a new product. Well, Synthesizer V is not new, but these voices are new and it's a new concept. And there's a lot of new functionality that comes with it. Just to be clear for everyone who is watching this perhaps later, this is a live stream. It means it's going to have warts and have bumps and opinions and tangents depending on who shows up. But more important than anything, it's going to, go through and show you this in action. And so keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that Synthesizer V is not an AI voice engine at all. This is not a tool that uses AI to create the actual voices that play. There may be some additional things with this one in the creation process, in the way they did it, but this is not like a Suno type engine. These are like voices that were captured, recorded, and it's a very clever engine which puts them all back together in a way that I think is really interesting. But it's not something that creates music out of nothing. You actually have to bring all the music to the table. And that's what I love about this company, that they're using. They have this thing called AI retakes, and that just changes some of the parameters to give you like a different version of what you've created. But it doesn't create anything. And so this is one of those like ethical vocal tools that we get to use in our arsenal, but it's not one of those, generative tools out there. So cool. Hey, Joaquin, how's it going? So hopefully we get some people on. We can do some, great discussion about this. But let me walk you through what this tool has in this release. We're not going to break down Synthesizer V too much. We're really focusing on these new choirs. Let me just play just a little bit of it for you. These are just the choirs doing the la la las without actually attaching words. We'll attach words to these in a little bit, but I just want to start with the most basic for a moment. Okay, already there are some really cool things about this. Just the basics right out of the box sound interesting, and yet we're just getting started. So what we have are 2 or 3 banks, I should say. Choir voices 1, and they list these as pop, gospel, R&B. We have choir voices 2, which are cinematic and classical. That's the one I just played for you just now. And we have choir voices 3, which are more folk and classical. And those are actually pretty good description. I do feel like the one that's gospel, R&B, and pop are a little bit more, boisterous, forward facing. The other ones blend maybe a little bit better. But we have these 3 choices. And then with each of those, we have 4 parts. So down, we're going to, this is a little tricky, but I'm going to zoom in when I can. That's the one thing about live streaming. It's like the zoom so you can all see what I'm doing is always a question. So in the chat, if you need to see something a little better, just let me know. We have soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. So 4 parts for each of them. And then with each of those, we have different number of singers, anywhere from 1 to 16. And so right off the bat, you can see we're already thinking about how does a choir work? How does a choir situate themselves? What are the voices involved with it? All of that stuff taken into account. It's clear that this company actually hired or talked to, consulted with someone who understands choirs. That part is clear. Because all of the stuff that they're doing in my brain is like, ooh, that makes sense as someone who's heard or worked with choirs, sang in choirs kind of thing. So we can go through and, for instance, I'll take all of these down to 1 voice each. Let you hear that. There is a spacing, which I'll look at just a second, but let's hear this first. So each of these voices can actually be used as a solo voice as well. You could just do like a quartet, or you could just use one of these voices as a voice. You don't have to use it as a choir, but it comes with a lot of the cool stuff that a choir can do. So let's take these up now to the extreme with 16 for each of the sections. The very first one you heard was like 8, 8, 8, and then 16 for the sopranos, but this is all 16 now. And maybe a good time, it has to re-render, but the spacing talks about how close the voices are together. So you can see, I can spread them out, which is really nice functionality. Each time we do that, of course, it gets to do this little re-render. And that's actually, I mean, you can see I just re-rendered this whole thing for 4 voices, well, for 4 parts, 16 voices each. It is taking a second to do that. When you're using less voices, of course, then there's less processing involved. Matter of fact, maybe I don't know. I'm going to put this just above my head here. We'll just keep an eye on the CPU while it's doing some of this stuff. It is running as a plugin inside Logic Pro, so it should hit that. Although sometimes I wonder if it's keeping it separate. I don't know. That part's above my pay grade. Okay. All of those are rendered. Okay, awesome. Let's continue on here with some of these other features before we add words and other things. We have ability to change the language for these. The ones that they have listed are Mandarin, English, Mandarin, oh, that's the one from above, Japanese, Spanish, Cantonese, and Korean. So I'm going to be using English today, but just FYI, those are the ones that they've programmed for this. Down below, vocal mode, we have the ability to change brightness, how rounded it is, how smooth it is. And then we have, these are some of the things we would see in Synthesizer V with our solo voices. Loudness, tension, breathiness, gender, tone shift. Okay, cool. All of that stuff would look familiar if you've been using Synthesizer V in the past. Comment from D. Carmichael, who has Synthesizer V but switched to Vocaloid because it was an easier UI. I've heard that from some other people as well. However, I have found with the interface in Synthesizer V that the power is, if nothing else, unmatched or matched, but not surpassed. I mean, the power in here is really intense, the flexibility. So the interface, if you take the time to figure it out, then you can do almost anything that you want. So that's why I've kind of stuck with Synth V. Okay, let's keep going because there are some other things here. So that's the voice. This is the voice category. It applies to the entire voice. And then we come in here and I'm going to like select all of my notes in the soprano part. And then the notes column applies to those. So yeah, you can see with the choir spread, we have the ability to change the note starts, the phrase ends, and even pitch. So this gives it some variety. And that's really in terms of all the voices that are here. There's one more thing with we'll get to there in a second. I'm thinking of which order. There's so much to this, but this allows us to change inside the soprano section, for instance. Are they all starting exactly the same time? Is there a little bit of variance? Again, you're going to have variance in a real choir, so why not add that in here? We have expression between vibrant, refined, raw, and rigid. We have vibrato modulation. How much vibrato do we want in there? Then we have the AI retake section in the phonemes. Okay. There was two things that I wanted to just pick up on real quick. One of them is I didn't talk about the consonant section in the overall voice. This is a nice way that if you want to just reduce the strength of the consonants of all the words, then you can do it with one slider, and that's really useful. Instead of having to go through and micromanage all of them, this does it across the voice, and so that's really nice. Also, we can use the relax consonants overall, and then change the duration of the plosives and the sibilants in the selected voice. That was one thing. The other thing I didn't show is this little button in the top here. It's the shuffle members. So these are like based off of a few different voices. And then as you get to the bigger sections, those voices are altered but repeated. Anyway, you can come through and I can move the section around to add variety as well. So you can see like the lit up heads of the people move around. And so we're changing the makeup of the section. That's kind of cool to give a little bit of variety for that as well. Okay, on to one of the newest sections of Synthesizer V, the area that I thought was really interesting with this, and that is under the effects. We have this thing called room sound. And for any of you who have studied acoustics or understand acoustics, there's a difference between the room you're singing in and like reverb. Reverb is maybe like the overall sound as it decays in the room, but there's all these other elements, the early reflections, the slightly later reflections, the type of surface, all of that stuff. Now we can actually add that in, and you can see it's like this microphone analogy. I'm gonna take off my glasses there. One thing I would love is even more contrast in this interface. When I'm looking at the screen in a room, when I'm doing a stream like this, there's a number of things that are gray on gray on gray. Some of them are brighter. There is some contrast there with some of the words, so I can read the sections and all that just fine. But then you see like these little microphones, and it's like almost the color of the gray. What's wrong with having like a light version? I don't think there is a light version. Maybe somebody could tell me if there was. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think they've ever. So anyway, room sound. And we can link the settings across all the tracks. So I'm just going to move this for one of them in terms of the size and the reflections. And it adds a nice, just a nice natural, more accurate type choir sound. Now that is not a reverb. That's like some physics of the room going in place. And we actually do have a reverb here as well. And right now that reverb is just, these ones are just for the one I have selected and not for all of them. So if I wanted to add the reverb to all of them, I think I have to do that individually. Yeah. But the room reflection thing is just for, let me scroll down, give me some more space. I can't remember what I was about to say, but I was just adding those reverbs in. Okay, we're almost. So we also have a compressor, equalizer, and so we can come through and really do some of the work inside here instead of having to do it outside. Okay. One more thing I think that is worth looking at, and then we'll add some words and mess around with the rest of it for a second. If I remember correctly, split unison into tracks. 4 new tracks, singers per track. We can actually take this now. We have this choir of all the voices, and we can split them out. Oh, I did it the opposite way. I'll undo that in a second. I did more per track. If I had done less per track, then it would have done it differently. But let's not undo that in the middle of a render. If I can even undo it. Yeah, there we go. So let's do split unison into tracks. 16 new tracks. So I can do this, each voice of the choir into its own track, and it will automatically change the choir size. I'm not going to do it right now. But just keep that in mind, that you don't have to keep this into a full choir setting. You can take it into individuals, which is great if you want to actually be able to mix that and put them maybe into spatial audio. I mean, it seems like a little overkill most of the time, but it is a possibility. Okay, so let's come through here and just add words to maybe the first little bit of this. And I don't have any words written. I barely got some music written. But I think I like this little part that we have kind of going here. I'm going to start with the alto, tenor, and bass because they're all in unison rhythmically. And then the soprano does something a little differently. So select them all. And we will do insert lyrics. Here's all the la 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 la's, right? So we're just going to do them all. This is neat. We sound great. Give us some nice consonants. Ooh. And then I'll do some of that. Okay. We'll see if this works. And we'll do the same thing for this one. Come on, give me, there we go. Paste, okay. And then we'll do the same for that. And then we have a little different thing here. You'd think I would just hit that key command, but nope. Okay, this, and then we'll do, that's not a 2-syllable word. So we're going to do a little bendy thing. We sound. We'll do one there. Oops. We sound great. Ooh. Okay, cool. We'll see how this sounds. And we'll maybe change some of the voice numbers around, and then we can try each of the different banks of voices. So that's our plan for the next couple seconds. Oh. Oh, something didn't go right. Okay, let me double check what happened here. Oh, that's weird. One of them's out of sync. Let me see if I can figure that out. Let me hear the first, or the ones that should be unison. Okay, so you'd have to actually write the words that match the melody, but do do do. This is neat. Oh, okay. Let's see if I can just figure that one thing out real quick. So that at least they line up later. Maybe there's another one, we'll find out. You're funny about about my mouth being open. That's funny. Quick thumbnail creation. And then I got one more to change. Modify, insert. Maybe it's that one. Oh, oof. That should have been that one. Maybe not that one. Let's see if that fixes it or not. Okay, so let's change each of these down to a smaller section. You'll notice when we go from 8 to 9 voices, they double row. And so if you want to have them all in a straight line, then you'll have to go to 8 or below. So let's do 8 for each of these. They should render faster with smaller voices. As soon as that's done rendering, I'll play it with the smaller amount. See, that was a little faster. And now let's one thing we don't get as much, you'll see down here in the actual phoneme timing, you'll see that some of them are up and down. We can change all of those, or we can use the consonant's strength setting. So maybe, for instance, at this point, if I'm like, this is all fine and good, but like the bass, no, maybe the tenor, I want that to have less I want it to have less of all of that and just more blend in, then we would do it this way with that instead of manually going through, or it's one option at least. And let's listen to maybe just, we can unsolo all of those now that they're all on. Let's look at maybe just. So let's turn down the consonants on that one. More of a blending voice, but I'm curious because I'm going to select all the notes and I want to have them be a little looser. So that's too much, but I do like maybe having just a little bit more. We'll see if how that changes the overall sound. Cool. Need to redo those the words. They don't really match very well. Okay, cool. This is one. Let's see what the choir 1 sounds like. And we'll load these up. One nice thing is that you'll see our settings are going to maintain throughout them. Now, I'm sure we could actually go through and reset those or use other methods, but for the moment, the way it's set up as default, they just come through the same way. So that's actually handy in many ways. Was there something else with? Oh yeah, one thing I didn't mention before is that inside the room sound, you can actually, let's turn them on for all of them. I didn't realize we can actually move them in that space as well. Man, there's a lot of little details to remember. I think what I'm going to do, man, I really hate that. Let's add a space at the end. Copy. Paste, 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 paste. I just want a bunch of oohs for the moment. There's probably, I wonder if there's a different way of doing that, but it doesn't matter. Okay, select. There we go. Oh, paste. All key commands. Better. Key command control. Let that render for a second. So even though there's a little weird bump in there, you can hear right off the bat how different those voices are than the first ones we were listening to. It's like I love having the like timbre differences, the performance differences. It's like one choir wouldn't have been enough for all the styles and things that we might want to do. And then here's going to be the third one, which they're saying is more folk or classical. We'll see. Man, I wonder if... Let's try that again. Instead of the O, let's just do oohs. I don't even know how many we need to do to make that work. All right, just enough. Copy. Again, I wonder if there's a different, better way of doing that. I'll have to look it up. But I don't usually just do a bunch of oohs. But you would think if ahs are the default, I wonder if there's a way to set a different default. Maybe that's in the settings. I'll look it up. Okay, we'll try this with just the ooh sound. And then it switches to like the ah sound towards the end. Okay, interesting. With those oohs, let me go back to voice choir number 1. Let you hear what that one sounds like. With just the ooh sounds, the smooth oohs. Do 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 do. I mean, it turns out rendering a whole choir, 4 voices with 8 in each one, takes a second. There's like a ooh. They're like definitely going all pop on us, which I don't mind. It's the right thing in some situations. If you're doing like a pop tune and you want a backing like gospel choir, then that would be number 1 for sure. If you want something more cinematic, then this one is going to be a little bit better. I have other choirs that work similarly. I have the East West Hollywood choir and the symphonic choir. I don't use them all that much, but they have a word builder which you can type in. And this is definitely more what I was looking for instead of what they were offering. But that technology is like 10 or 15 years old, and they were doing it pretty well before really anybody. Okay, this one with this particular group, I want to keep that one a little bit narrower. Let's go to 16 with this and keep it a little narrower. Let's go to 16 for the tenors and widen it. I just like the bass voices being spread out. We'll see how this does. And then let's actually maybe mess with some of the vocal modes and other parameters too and see how those work. But you see, I mean, it's like that's how easy it is to use this in its most basic functionality. In terms of getting the choirs up and running, it's super simple. Rendering, I wonder. So it's not the latest and greatest computer anymore. At one time, this computer was the best. Isn't that the truth for all of our computers? But it is a Mac Studio Ultra, just M1. And you'll see it's running this whole thing on a single thread. Okay, so let me think about this for a minute. I'm just trying to think of, maybe I'll change. Pace at the playhead. Separate. Ugh. Okay, try that again. I just want a separate copy, paste at the playhead. Come on. Okay, option click, drag, better. Let's give this one choir 1. English, good. Soprano. Let's put it down to 1 soprano. Let's make it nice and bright. I'm going to select all of the tracks, and I want this to be more raw. Oh, they made them link tracks anyway. Unlink. Okay, so we're going to reset some of this stuff because I didn't want that to happen. Unlinked, good. Let's try that first and see what we're doing. Yeah, maybe not in this particular key. It seems like it's maybe on the edge of the range for that. And that first choir voice, man, that thing is like really digging into those little bends that it does. Okay, let's do that. We'll give this one words just on top of everything. I am here. You are near. Ooh, 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 ooh. So just that top one as like a soloistic type voice. Let's see if voice choir 2 sounds better for that. it's interesting. I don't know if I would use it exactly like that or not. I thought I put that to one voice, but apparently maybe that was during, I don't know if that was probably me just when I was trying to copy and paste. Better. The bass voices are too wide. It's starting to do some sort of weird distortion thing, so let's narrow those down. Let's let it finish rendering. Sound of Joy says, I've been using Synth V1 and 2 for gospel since 2024. I just upgraded Logic Pro X to add effects. Now I can stay in standalone mode. Yeah, exactly. For those of you who want to use this in standalone mode, this is a perfect way to do it because you don't have to then, it's like basic compression, basic equalizer. And the room sound stuff, that's like critical to making some of these things sound natural, but then it has good reverbs as well. Simple reverbs, but good. Now, with Logic Pro update coming out soon on the 28th, this is a MIDI file that I got outside of Logic. I didn't make this arrangement inside Logic. In fact, it comes from ethical places. I need a vacuum in my room. A little dusty this week. I got the MIDI from a less than ethical place, I should say. I don't know if ethical is the right word. I didn't steal it really, but I just went in. I don't know if you knew this, but ChatGPT can make MIDI files based on the prompts you want. And so I said, give me a 4-part choir arrangement in a style. That was like, I think I put Enya maybe down, and it gave me this. And that's just was a time thing for a demonstration to create something that wasn't hopefully going to get copyright pinged by YouTube. Maybe it will. I didn't make it, but it should have been fresh and new. But you can do that with it. Now, what's going to be exciting about Logic 28 or Logic's next version on the 28th is that I could take that MIDI file, dump it into Logic, have it analyze it for the chords, and then all of a sudden it's giving me a bass part and a keyboard part, a synthesizer part, drums even, and it can do that all based on the chords that came from that file. Otherwise, I'd have to go through and actually analyze the chords, which I could do. It's like, that's not a problem if you've ever had music theory and understand it, but not everybody has that background. And so it's kind of nice to be able to do that. Here's our version so far of this. I like having that one voice in the octave above. It like really fills it out for that style of like cinematic music kind of thing happening here. And then there we go. Is there anything? There's a few people watching right now. We've been talking about the new choirs in Synthesizer V that were announced today. I've been using them now for a bit, but are there any questions or things that you would love to ask about this or see demonstrated if you're considering these? Not a sponsored video. It's actually really rare that I do truly sponsored videos on my channel. I've done I started to do them in the past, and what I hated most was somebody telling me that I had to say something was good if I didn't feel like it was good. So I don't take money for videos very often. Usually, really never. Every once in a while, a product comes by that I actually really do believe in. I'm going to be making some videos about Automy, maybe tomorrow, probably early next week. I'm going to do a series of videos where I'm incorporating Automy, the vocal stuff, into some of my projects, because the Automy stuff I love. It didn't take any bending of my arm to ask them. When they asked if I would make some videos, I said, that's actually a product that I really, really like. I'm Dreamtonics. I like their stuff quite a bit. I've had a hard time with VocoFlex getting it to sound really good. And that's where Automy came in, because VocoFlex, what I wanted was to be able to take voices that I have recordings of myself. And then there was one of the videos I'm going to show is a product or a project that I was really hoping to do with VocoFlex. And it kind of worked, but it didn't really work. And that is taking some recordings of my mom before she died 40, 50 years ago. And then turning it into a singing voice that I could do a duet with. So that's kind of a cool project. And so automating things. But if you have any questions or want to see something specific about this is a great time to do that. If you don't, that's okay. I'll like you anyway. What do we got? Any questions? Anything you want to see? We've been going on the stream for about 47 minutes. And we don't have to go any longer. But this is I really think that some people who do vocal production with choir type work, this could be really interesting for someone doing mock-ups before going to a choir, or if you're writing choir music and you want to do this. I know at least a few people who follow this channel. You know who you are. June. You really could use a tool like this to do your mock-ups before taking it to the choir. And you have all the parts, and you can, if you know what your choir configuration is, you can actually make it sound like it. You can know, if you know what the room is like, you can recreate the room, and it's all here. So this is an amazing tool for some people who are doing choir things. DFB Guitar says, thanks for these updates. Looking forward to getting my new Mac Mini M4 Pro to use it. Heck yeah. I mean, that's going to be a great computer for this. So I will say, and this is just based off of what we're seeing today. So if you watch my performance meter over on the side here, this is where my Mac Studio Ultra is not going to beat even a Mac Mini M4, because the individual threads get better and better. Even though I may have more of them, it doesn't matter, because all of this whole tool, if you look at it, now, granted, it is all working on there. If I was really having an issue, what I could do is load two different versions of this on 2 different tracks and put like the choir sopranos and altos in one and the tenors and bass in another. But you lose some of the cool things like the room sound linking settings across all tracks. Although you could save them as a preset and then load that preset in the other instance of the plugin. So you could, but then you have to like open and close, open and close. So, but that would allow you to have more spread across the threads. So I guess if you need to do that. But the nice thing about something like this right now, I'm using, quite a bit of it. Maybe it's not as long as a full song. I don't think that would really add too much to that because it's in the instant that it's looking at the CPU usage. So it is staying below 100%. It is not clipping that. And so I think that I'm going to be okay. Also, one other thing that I could do, of course, is change my buffer size up if I needed to. And that would give me some more room for that as well. Yeah, these... Let's do one more thing with the tracks. Let's put sopranos. I'm not going to spread them out maybe how the choir would do it, but I'm going to put them across the front here. This is inside the room sound settings. I don't know how much this will change. I was thinking about this as I was talking about it earlier, but I wasn't sure how much this would change. Rendering. Let me stop it. It will try to play through the renders, although it gets a little bit messy. But now, in my headphones, I'm hearing like the sopranos, altos, tenors, and bass across the stage, and so that is working as advertised. I'm going to put that one solo voice in the center, but I'm going to push it all the way to the top, which I'm assuming is further away from the actual room where the microphones are. Okay, a little bit of leveling still. I feel like I could pull out some of the mid-range of the lower voices just to clean them up a little bit. But because now we're kind of getting closer to wrapping up, let's do the split unison into tracks. 16 new tracks will be created. I'm going to do this for each of them. This is going to give us the entire choir broken out by voice. I'm curious to see if this will play. I mean, theoretically, it should be similar, but we're gonna see what we can do. Let's push this thing to the limits. So we're gonna have like 65 tracks. Is that math right? It depends on what I did for each of the individual ones. Yeah, it says 16 plus 16, 32, 64, plus that one solo, 65. Let's see if it even sounds the same. Let's see if Logic Pro and all of their wisdom of making it so plugins can only be on one thread. Oh, it's going to render for a minute. We're going to let it render though. At least with rendering, it's closer to just playing audio files. That's theoretically. It is going through the room sound. It is going through the reverb. Now, when I click on each of these, you can see which voice in the graphic that they are. How cool. And I believe with that selected, I can change which voice is in there. That's kind of cool too. But now I've got, let's see. Now I've got all of the choir on individual tracks, and I can change a word here and there. I could have a subsection of a section do a different part. Yeah, this may not work. It may work on a better computer, but let me just change it up here. Let's add our sample rate buffer size to this, and let's change it to 1024. Nervous chuckle. Rendering vocals. Let's see, close that down. Close that down. Let's close that and close that. So it leaves the original track there, it just mutes it or turns it off, I guess, deactivates. Are we still rendering? I can't even tell where that is. Okay. It's a big fat no. Let's do this amazing thing called the track freeze. I'll be surprised if this works. I'll be shocked. We've just pushed it too far. So now we know the limit. You cannot do 65 vocal tracks simultaneously. Ooh. It says command period to cancel, but I want to see what it does. Look at my CPU. Look at this. This is the perfect example of the excess of logic. Let's give you all another session player, but let's not make it so you can actually process your instruments on multiple threads. It's a perfect example. All that power just has to sit there and watch. Is it possible for them to change that? Maybe not at this point with the code. Maybe not at this point with the code. That doesn't mean it isn't possible, because other people seem to do it. But I'm not sure Logic Pro can do it. Okay, now it's going to fly through the rest because I should have moved the end of my project. Okay. Okay, it worked, just not well. I wonder how. Unmute group. Wonder. Undo. Did I delete the wrong one? voice panel. Okay, so that's what I want. I want to delete that one. I can't just delete it. I wonder if I can do command delete. Now they're going to make me do this one at a time. No, I resist. Won't let me select more than one. Okay. Feels like there should be a different way of doing that too. But I'm doing that for the very first time. I wonder if I delete those, if it makes a difference. Okay, we're kind of going down a rabbit hole here a little bit. No, still I have to do them one at a time. Maybe there's a key command you can adjust. Come on. Let me have it. So we're getting rid of the sopranos and altos. And then I'll play and see if that works. Oh my gosh, this is tedious. There's got to be a different way. We'll unmute that group. What the heck was that? Okay. Okay, we're gonna do something else. You ready? Beep, 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 beep. Okay. Hope this was useful. People are leaving the stream in droves based on that experience. Maybe it's time to add like a select all tracks and delete them. Oh, cool product though. And I think it sounded really interesting. I think it sounded really good. And I'm excited to mess with it more and start to incorporate it. My album project that I've been working on that's almost done. There are a few times that I would have used a choir like that. Now we've got one that's relatively straightforward to add. And so I'm super pumped about the potential for that in the future. Anyway, thanks for being here. We hit an hour mark. I think that's about where we're going to pull the plug. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Talk to you all later.